So are you a healthy Christian leader? Are you a healthy Christian? Let's think about that. So if you haven't heard the first part, I covered character traits 1 to 5, and it's on our podcast. So it'd be good if you could go back to listen to that. And because I'm covering the other 5 traits tonight, not that there are only 10 traits, but yeah, it's so long, so that's why I have to do 5 tonight. So last time we covered 5, the first 5, and they were, these are healthy leadership traits. They're actually character traits of every Christian leader. So number 1, servant leadership. Number 2, integrity. Number 3, compassion and empathy. Number 4, visionary. And number 5, courage. So please listen to our podcast for the talk on that. Again, what is a godly leader? What's the definition of that? So we're all on the same page. Well, Got Questions defines it like this, and I like it. It's really succinct and it's very Christ-centered. And it says the Christian leader is one who follows Christ and inspires others to follow him as well. So that is a Christian leader. And basically a leader to me means just someone who's willing to take up responsibility and you can influence others while you do that as well. Okay, so what's the 6th trait? It's accountability. So as Christian leaders, we're each ultimately accountable to God because we're stewarding what God has given us. Everything we have, he has entrusted us with it. So the ministry, the work, all our belongings, everything that we have, it belongs to God. And God sees and knows everything. There's nothing we can hide from him. And so we are simply stewards of what God's given to us. Hebrews 13:17, it mentions that leaders must give account to God because of their responsibility towards others. So accountability also, yes, to God, but also at the same time to others around us. So for example, if you're in a team, then you're obviously accountable to your team leader or the person above you, but you're also accountable to the people you work besides as well. But, where does accountability start, though? It actually starts in yourself, in your heart first. It starts with you being transparent and honest, and you cultivating an inner attitude of, like, say, you might be able to say these things to yourself. Do you have this kind of attitude? I'm honest with myself. I'm open to receiving input, correction, and feedback. I mean, those are hard things to take, right? And I'm willing to sit with uncomfortable feelings and truths. Often those truths that I need to hear, and I'm willing to make changes. So that's where accountability actually begins. Because then with this humble attitude, then you are now open. You're like, I give you permission to speak into my life. Obviously you say this to people you trust and respect, right? So the attitude first, and then you actually can give true, honest permission for people to speak into you. Otherwise, it would be too very scary for you, and you would just be quite closed up. So the thing with accountability is that it keeps us safe, trustworthy, and humble. Yeah, so if you're a leader in any capacity, accountability is not an option, it's actually necessary. It's necessary. Why? Because it protects us from harm to ourselves and harming others. So it helps us to learn more about ourselves and others, and we make changes, we grow. It also reminds us that I'm part of a team. I'm not here for myself, with myself. I am a part of the bigger picture. So seeking wisdom and counsel regularly from counselors or mentors or supervisors or those whom you trust and respect is just the right and healthy thing to do. And the good thing is, as a leader, right, when you model accountability, you will create a culture where people feel normal to be honest because you're being honest. That, even if you failed somehow, you've made mistakes, you actually feel safe to be transparent. Because that's what the leadership, that's what the culture values, that's what's encouraged. So it's always got to begin with us as a leader. And so it's a place where people grow closer as well because they're being authentic and vulnerable. So remember, we ultimately answer to God, but as well as to the people we serve. Yeah. So number 7, humility. So humility is a cornerstone quality of godly leadership. Philippians 2:3-4 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility consider others as more important than yourselves. Everyone should look not to his own interests, but rather to the interests of others." We know these verses well, but how do some Christians misinterpret this? Can be very much misinterpreted, and sometimes it's misinterpreted like this: I always have to put others first. It's not about me. No, it's all about God. It's all about others. My needs don't matter. It's pride. It's selfish to think all about myself. Friends, that is not true humility. Humility doesn't mean being a yes person, like you serving everything and everyone, and you're being a doormat for others to put their demands and their expectations onto you. That's not humility. You know what you're doing there? You are just suppressing who you are. And this has dire consequences. So if we constantly put others first, while we deny ourselves, you're going to start feeling invisible. Because deep down, we all have a natural need. I want to be loved. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be known. These are natural human desires that God created in us to connect with Him, to better connect with other people in healthy ways. So then if you start feeling invisible, you're going to I have to cope with this pain in a certain way. So then it's going to find itself out. It's going to be expressed in different ways, in unhealthy ways. Whenever things go underground, it just comes out in unhealthy ways. So the thing is, when you notice yourself being prideful, it actually could be that you're just defensively protecting that I actually need to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be known. I have valid needs. So do check that when you feel like, oh, this is prideful, I'm thinking about myself too much. The truth is this: you don't fight for God's love, you accept it. We don't fight for God's love. I accept it. And so the thing is, true humility, it actually flows from a personal relationship with God. A personal relationship. I am connected to God. I'm walking in a deeply embedded understanding because I know I'm loved. I experience it. I know it and I experienced it. And I'm seen by God. I'm known by God. And I'm secure in His love. So I don't have to work for that love or acceptance or approval of others. So, this is a journey we're on. We're constantly, God is growing His love in us constantly. So that place, being secure in God, that's the place we can truly work towards actually doing nothing out of selfish ambition. Do you see how it works? I'm secure in God. The love of God is in me. It flows out of this. And therefore, I actually can afford and I can be free to be secure, to be not thinking about myself because I'm quite filled up. I'm quite secure in God. So we are always supposed to serve out of the overflow of God's love and God's truth in us. And that's how healthy relationships work. So in practical ways then, a humility in leadership can look like acknowledging that our talents and successes are gifts from God. We create spaces for others to shine. And if others are more gifted than I am, I'm okay with it. We're all made differently. I'm not mad. Being open and accepting of feedback, even when it feels really uncomfortable, when it feels unpleasant. That's a sign of humility. And giving credit where it's due and recognizing team efforts. So when you lead with genuine humility, you're role modeling, making space for others. Others can shine. I can release them into their giftings, and I point others to God, not to myself. So this actually fosters a collaborative culture. Everyone wants to work together. Everyone feels valued and they feel motivated to excel for God's glory, not their own glory. Okay, so the 8th trait is wisdom. wisdom. So Proverbs 9-10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So the fear of God, it is my awe and respect of God, right? And it says, beginning with God himself, that's wisdom in itself, right? Beginning with God, that's wisdom in itself. And so then how do we keep walking in continuous wisdom? Well, John 15 talks about continual dependence on God. Continual wisdom, I need to continually depend on God. I need to keep, cultivating this attitude of dependence on him. We're just keeping our top affection for him, keeping our hearts and minds open to him, and especially in times where it's really painful, it's really difficult, and all I feel like is to blame him or other people. And also, why do we seek God's wisdom in other times? Because we're limited in our knowledge. Obviously, we know our limits as a human being. I'm limited in my understanding, so I always need to seek God's help and guidance. And also, our own perspectives can be quite biased or untruthful, right? Yeah. And this is the beautiful thing with wisdom, is that when we see something from God's perspective, we can see something we never saw before. Like it was always in front of us, but I never saw it before until now. Until it drops, the penny drops, the understanding drops, the revelation drops. Right? I'm sure you guys have come across times like that. And then it just kind of recalibrates us, and it changes our attitudes. So wisdom from God gives us clarity, direction, and guidance. That's why I want to seek God. It gives me clarity, direction, and guidance when I'm feeling confused and everything's muddy and I'm being pulled this way and that way. God, what do you say? God, show me. God, lead me. God, would you speak to me? So practically applying wisdom means spending daily quiet times with God and in the Word. Why is this so important? In this day and age of just distractions on our devices, you want to put that aside so you can actually focus on just being with God in his presence, in his truth. And, make it into a habit. We say this all the time, but how many of us actually do that? Seeking counsel from other godly leaders, that's seeking wisdom. Applying biblical principles to your ministry or your work, that's biblical wisdom. And also using godly discernment and decision making. So when we walk with God, we actually sharpen our discernment because his word is alive in us. I know what God is like. Actually, I understand his character. So I discern that, wow, this is fleshly, or this is worldly, or this is just me. So you can get that sharpness when we continue to abide in Jesus by relying on him. So when you consistently seek God's kingdom before we seek human strategies, which human strategies are okay to use, we use them all the time, we will make more balanced and more God-honoring decisions, and then good godly fruit will be produced from there. Okay. Number 9, faithfulness. Faithfulness. So faithfulness is a fruit of faith. It is our trust in God. Faithfulness can only come from faith. How do I stick at something and keep persisting at something unless God unless I heard what he said, and that faith just anchors me. It actually empowers me into action, right? It actually, keeps me propelling me forward, compelling me, as we read in the Mark chapter 1 tonight. So it is his truth holding us steady, loyal, and steadfast. That is how faithfulness works. God's truth, what he speaks to me, holding me in place, holding me steady, loyal, and steadfast. So what it looks like on the outside is staying power. Well, you see someone, wow, that's so hard. Why are you still here? Staying power, consistency, and a commitment to your decisions. So also on top of that, I have to say, these qualities are built from developing a very good level of distress tolerance. You being able to sit with uncomfortable, unpleasant, painful feelings. You're tolerating them by sitting with them, by feeling them and not being afraid of them, feeling them and not acting on them, feeling them and they're okay to be there. They do dissolve. So then, hence, you can hold your line, you can stay on track. Distress tolerance, we want to grow that. That's how we become more resilient. So Nehemiah remained committed to building Jerusalem's walls. You remember, despite really fierce opposition in many different ways. And it's that kind of unwavering dedication that we're called to as Christian leaders. But I have to say this, being faithful doesn't mean you blindly, rigidly, you stick stubbornly to a goal. That's not faithfulness. That's just rigidity. You know, if we're blindly, rigidly like, I'm going to stick to this goal, I'm going to stick to doing things the same way, I'm faithful. You're sticking to that goal or destination rigidly. Because there are actually so many ways to reach a goal. There's so many different methods you can still reach that goal. And there's just not one way. And God's not a rigid God. You know, God's got heaps of ways of doing things. He's got heaps of different perspectives and ways of seeing. We just got to catch on to that and see that and then agree with that. So situations do happen outside of our control. So if you become more flexible and adaptable, right, in the journey of getting to your destination, you will be less likely to give up. So try to keep that in mind. I will stay open-minded, I'll stay flexible, I'll stay adaptable instead of being rigid and thinking only one thing is the answer. So then we'll just be more likely to keep going. Okay, and so how you stay faithful is you continue to trust in God. Trust in God, not the goal or the method. So that is a big mistake we make as Christians. Sometimes we're like, I need to get to the goal or that method, I'm going to do that method. And we put our trust unconsciously into the goal or the method. Instead of, actually, God, I trust you. No matter what happens, how this gets done, I'm still going to trust you at the end of the day, right? Move the trust off the goal or method onto God. So, in your church, ministry or work, faithful leadership might mean you persevering through relational, emotional, economic storms. Storms are bound to come. Would we persevere? Sticking to your values when less ethical options are there. Consistently living out your faith and keeping your eyes on the long-term vision even when short-term challenges arise. Yeah. So when you stay faithful in both good and tough times, you'll build a foundation of trust with your team and credibility with your members or clients. And God honors those who are steadfast, and he honors us in ways we don't expect. He adds to us, he adds to our ministry, he strengthens us, he strengthens our testimony. It's good, eh? Okay, the last trait. Number 10, empowerment. So great Christian leaders are committed to equipping and empowering others. So meaning that the leader's not the only one doing all the initiating, decision-making, and work, while everyone just attends and sits and just waits to be, just waits. So this actually disempowers others. It leaves them passive and subconsciously reliant on you. So I know it's always easier to do something myself because I get it done fast and I get it done my way. And it's actually much harder to delegate and to release and trust other people. But it is something we need to work on in order to have others grow, see others grow. So this pattern is, so it's just quite a similar thing to parenting, right? Where parents do everything for the children. Parents 100% ownership, children 0. But this pattern just creates a limit. It creates a ceiling. It creates a ceiling on the growth of the people. And then also overly burdens the leader and it weighs them down, leading to resentment and burnout. Yeah. And that's unhealthy leadership. Now, why do you believe you need to be the one responsible for everything? So the opposite of this is what God has called us to do. Paul encourages us in Ephesians 4:11-12 to equip others for works of service. So it's about multiplying our impact, expanding the kingdom, into investing into others, investing into others, releasing them into their gifts and callings. So empowering leadership can look like this. It looks like trusting others, delegating and assigning and letting others do what they can, seeking opportunities to release people into their ministries. It means mentoring and developing team leaders. It means providing opportunities for growth and stretching. It means fostering a culture where everyone is encouraged to serve and where their heart is, what their gifting is, what God has put on them. When you focus on empowering others rather than building your own thing, you multiply your impact exponentially. That's true, isn't it? So the leaders you develop today will experience their growth and fruit, expanding the kingdom and influencing others far beyond what we could ever do on our own. And that's what it's all about, advancing the kingdom. So this brings us to the end of our talk on healthy leadership traits. I hope it's been useful. Yeah, do listen back to the first podcast. Okay, let's recap these again for those of you who've been listening very well. Number 1, servant leadership. Number 2, integrity. Number 3, compassion and empathy. Number 4, visionary. 5, courage. 6, accountability. 7, humility. 8, wisdom. 9, faithfulness. 10, empowerment. So, considering these traits, I know I went through them really fast. Is this the kind of leader you want to be? Do you want to develop these traits as you journey with God? The Christlike traits. We all want to be like Christ and lead others to Christ as our end goal. Okay, I'm done here. Does anyone have any questions before we go into groups? And I've got some really good discussion questions for you guys.